Good afternoon. My name is Trinidad Aguirre, and I am here representing Chamber Charla, the North Texas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really excited on these next two guests. Really, we have the privilege and honor of Acela Garrett.
Gomez Garrett.
Gomez Garrett. I know. It's a three-name thing, right?
Yes.
Madam Chairperson
Thank you.
for the Chamber. And Acela brings a wealth of experience. She's the owner of ABG2 Enterprises, a company that provides translation and interpretation services to numerous local and state government entities, as well as the private sector. She's also a mastered licensed court interpreter, if you didn't know that, which is pretty exciting, pretty cool. And then here we have Gilberto. I'm going to mess up.
Taide.
Yes, I know, you got me on. Love it. And he is our membership service director for the Greater Chamber. And really excited because his wealth of experience comes at a tremendous, he's worked in Fortune 6 organizations in a matrix environment. He has great experience in areas such as customer service, sales, employee development, staffing, recruiting, Six Sigma methodology, and it just keeps going. So no doubt, wealth of experience and a tremendous asset to the Chamber. Hello, how are y'all doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having us. This is pretty exciting.
It is. It's very exciting.
Yeah, this is really next level, and it's a really great way, and I applaud you both for putting this show together. As we're launching this is a very exciting production, and I think it's going to be a tremendous value not only for our greater community but to help educate.
Exactly.
Before I get into it, what prompted y'all to do a podcast? Like, why would you want to set this up?
I think really our mission is to kind of help businesses foster through technology, and we thought, we're at the age where we're having a lot of business owners that have to transition their business because of COVID. And you're seeing more people work from home. You're seeing more people establish online communities. And we thought this is another just great way to kind of bring communities together and bring those resources to them. And what a better way than a podcast and a video series.
And if I may add, the opportunity presented itself through one of our members who was very generous in offering. So here we are. We're going to take advantage of that. That's what it's all about. Is when opportunity knocks, you got to jump in.
I love that, and I couldn't agree with you more. Both great insights, and I think it's going to be such a tremendous value add for not only your current members, but all those thinking about why a chamber.
Right.
I'm going to add some context and paint a landscape, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, because when we talk about the Hispanic community, people sometimes think, oh, they're just a niche audience. They're small. They're insignificant. But here's some facts that I've pulled up through some research. For example, in 2021, just last year, the census reported that Hispanic Texans represent 39.2% of the Texas population.
Right.
Non-Hispanic whites represent 39.8%. So tremendous in terms of population, no doubt. But let's bring it local. When we look at DFW, they're really driving the population growth overall, a little over 30%. That translates to not only billions of dollars, we're talking to a tune of $31.3 billion. So those are in all respects, the Chamber's customers.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you think about business in Dallas, in the DFW area, what are your thoughts on these facts and figures? And then, how do you think that the Chamber's going to be able to really help them connect the dots with a very powerful Hispanic super consumer that is emerging, or it's really been here, we just haven't really paid a close attention to?
Right.
I'll start with you, Gilberto.
I think, and as our chamber is growing, I think a lot of our job as a chamber is to find out what those businesses need. And for every industry, it's a little bit different. I think as we're kind of diving into some of those industries, you're looking at there's business owners that maybe need more resources from the city or from the state. There's businesses that just need help growing their network. There's businesses that maybe just need a workshop on social media marketing, on any kind of marketing for that matter. So it's just about us getting connected with those communities, finding out what exactly do they need, and setting it up for them. And as our chamber grows, the resources are going to grow. Our chamber, kind of unique about ours, is that we span 30 counties in North Texas. So it's a huge, huge opportunity for small business owners to get connected with maybe people that are experienced in the industry, and it's an opportunity for people that are big companies to get connected with emerging markets.
Right.
So,
Well, and you know how this chamber started was a group of people that saw a need. You know, there was a void that needed to be filled because, like you say, we have lots of customers, but we're not connecting with one another. We are scattered, and we're the kind of people that, you know, we pull ourselves, you know, up, you know, from the what is it called, the bootstraps. But the thing is, we need each other. We need to work with one another, and this is the spirit of what we're doing, is bringing the community together. We need each other. A lot of people ask me, you know, I don't need it. You know, why would I need the chamber? Well, we need you. You know, we need you to be part, because we together we're going to be able to do something bigger than you yourself can by yourself. So anyway, I think that we saw this need, and we're trying to fill this void.
What do you think right now? So, for example, and I'm glad you mentioned the chamber and its vision and its purpose. What is the chamber today? So, if we look at, you know, where we are right now, and then I call it the art of the possible, right? Where do we want to be in 3, 4, 5 years from now? But for today, what can your members expect from you and the organization and the team? I'll start with you, Acela.
Okay, well, you know, thanks to the obstacles, I think, that we have faced since the beginning of the chamber, we had to get innovative. We had to figure out, how are we going to survive? Here we are, brand new organization that sees a need, but how are we going to reach all these people? How are we going to, you know, it's not so much how are we going to do this? How are we all going to, you know, put all these resources together? So, at the beginning of this chamber, 2019, we started, you know, gung-ho, we're going to do this network, and then we had great networks, by the way. I mean, just as a brand new organization, we were really having great turnouts, great connections were being made. And of course, the pandemic hits, and, you know, we're trying to be responsible, so we're not going to have all these, you know, in-person networking and spreading the virus around. And so luckily, people like Gilberto joined the chamber. And this is what I appreciate about our group, is that we are very diverse in ages and backgrounds. And what people like Gilberto brought was, you know, technology and the social media factor that we knew that we needed to keep a presence. So, yeah, that's what we were able to do for even the members that we just acquired that had come to join us. So social media grew, and we were able to keep the group, the network, and then we were able to add. And even through that, we were able to add online programs and opportunities, you know. So that all of that now is bringing us to kind of the next step right now. We're more free to get out, to do our things that we love doing. I mean, I love the socializing part, you know, but we got so much more to do and so much more to go. So this is where, actually, he's our new director of operations, and I'm very, very proud of that, because we've actually, he was part of the board. He started doing all this stuff. I thought, well, we need you full time. So yeah, he's taken on this big responsibility, and he's doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, I think, and so really, when we think about all the people that are coming in and they're saying, well, I want to be plugged in here, plugged in there, we have opportunities for them to come to a committee and maybe set up a workshop, an educational workshop, or maybe set up a networking event. And it's through working with those committees that you can kind of develop relationships with other business owners. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect is the programs itself. So the social media program, when we first looked into it, we're like, well, how do we do this? There was a need for business owners to find out what are the social media strategies that work. And there was also a need for us we got to figure out how to promote business owners. So then the program came into play where we teach people that are joining our organization those strategies We get together once a month. We kind of figure out what are we planning out for the next month, and the goal is to promote those business owners in our chamber. So it's a win-win for everyone, and that's how our growth. I mean, organically, we're reaching. This last month was 25,000 people. No paid advertisement, no paid ads. It was just people helping out each other. So it was great. And I think as we approach other educational events, it'll be the same concept. I mean, it'll be us pulling the resources from our chamber and bringing it to the audience or bringing it to new business owners.
Yeah. So I mean, when a small business owner comes in, and we talked about this just last week, when we think of chamber, obviously the connections there. Obviously, the amount of resources and education you can provide are there. So why the hesitancy? Why are, in your opinion, Hispanics, particularly Hispanic small businesses, hesitant to join a chamber? What's the number one constraint? And then how do y'all remove that constraint or remove that barrier?
It's a funny question because my dad is actually, he came to this country when he was in his early 20s, and he started a foundation repair business. And I think a lot had to do with culture. You just didn't want to go outside of your means to ask for help, or to just say, put you in a spot where it makes you grow and develop. They figure out a process and then they stick to it, and they'll stick with it for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
So I think the biggest thing to address is like, how do we address the culture? I mean, it's really targeting those behaviors and seeing, well, there's a lot of opportunity there. We're gonna be the ones that have to go out to the community and just show them through examples, and again, just making those connections.
And people like your dad could be a great resource, an example. I mean, he's already learned a few things, so you can teach a new entrepreneur or somebody starting out in that kind of business, just so that they won't make the same kind of mistakes that they did, or just some great tips. So, yeah, I mean, chamber is such a funny word. Just kind of, like, what's a chamber, And a chamber, to me, is just a place, and now we're just talking about a virtual place. We don't actually have a brick and mortar building yet, but we're creating this space, for people to come together, like-minded people that have needs and people that can provide, the information. So we're putting all this together. To me, it's everything about bringing everything together in an organized way that, people out there may not think that they need a chamber, but, word of mouth, it's amazing. You start talking to so-and-so and la comadre, the chamber, la chamba. Where the chamba came from, that word? Okay, that's a Spanish word, and we all in the Mexican, vocabulary use "me voy a la chamba." I'm going to work. It's actually translates into work, but the word chamba actually came from the word chamber. Back in the 40s, when the Bracero program, Mexican immigrants were coming to the United States to work, they had to go through the Chamber of Commerce back then to just do their transactions. I think they even got their paychecks through that. So even the word chamba, it's in our culture. We just don't realize how important a chamber of commerce was, to provide services for them. So if we can get back to that, we can get back to the little history. I think it's just about education. It's just about getting the word out, just informing people. And that's what we're trying to do.
I love that. I love that little fun fact. That's something I learn every day. So that's a
chamba.
Good, thank you, chamba. I'm going to say that when I get home. When I think of but there's lots of chambas. There's lots of chambers out there. Why Hispanic chamber? Like, what do you think is the biggest value from a Hispanic chamber versus, say, a local city chamber that may exist in their respective cities or municipalities?
Well, I mean, just ask any regular chamber how many Hispanic businesses they actually have in their memberships. And it goes back to the same thing. It's cultural. I mean, we're maybe, it's foreign. It's intimidating, maybe a language barrier. Those kind of things, It's not that the local chamber doesn't have the great resources and programs to offer, but it's just that the approach is not there to meet the needs of this particular group. And, we don't want to have a chamber just so that we can separate ourselves from the community, from the rest of the community. We want to have a Hispanic chamber so that we can build them up, encourage them, support them so that they can function in the rest of the community, in the business world. That's why a Hispanic chamber, I think.
I love that.
Yeah. And we'll add to that 50% of our board is actually like first generation or second generation. And so when we're approaching a lot of these things, we're taking into consideration like there's an extra need there. There's a couple of more steps that we may have to do to reach this audience. What are those steps and how do we do it? So I think that's really important, and the opportunity there is immense. I mean, you talked about some of those figures, but we're in Texas, fourth largest economy in the world, right? And then we're in North Texas, where I know the percentage of Hispanics here it's got to be above 30%.
Absolutely.
It's got to be above 30%. Yes. And then you look at how many of those 30% own businesses, the percentage is still big. And then you look at how many of those are in a chamber, and you're like, very, very few. Very few. So the opportunity is huge in the Hispanic market.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, when you look at the growth from entrepreneurship in small businesses, I was just covering that they're really leading the paving the way for the small business sector in general. Hispanic or Latinos are, if not for them, would have actually seen a decrease in the amount of small businesses. But as well, I believe there's something missing, and you touched a little bit about it, Acela, is where it's that cultural nuance, right? It's about building it's more about building, it's not so much the brand, but it's about the community.
Yes.
And it's about celebrating the culture and the diversity that we have. What are some of the steps that you feel that your respective chamber is bringing to the table to help satisfy that need? So when I join the chamber, it's more than joining a chamber. I'm joining, a movement. I'm joining a community of like-minded professionals.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, we try to incorporate just historically cultural events that we grew up celebrating. Dia de los Muertos, and that's become such a big thing, after the Coco movie came out from Disney. Everybody knows about Dia de los Muertos. Well, what a better way, that to bring a community together, celebrating something that's, traditional in our lives. We had Dia de los Reyes Magos, which is the wise man, and we were able to celebrate with chocolate, the traditional Mexican chocolate, and the pan de muertos, bread. I mean, we incorporate all the things, all the flavors, the music, just the things that we're familiar with into our events, because that's what makes us who we are. It's not just the language, like I've heard you say. It's our culture. It's what we've lived that I think is putting this community together.
Yeah, I think another a big event, the Cinco de Mayo, is coming up. And last year, so again, not a lot of money spent on marketing. We had over 1,200 people show up to this event on May 1st. It's in Flower Mound, Texas. This year, it'll be on a Sunday from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I know last year we had around 30 vendors. Was it around 30 vendors? And we had live music all day. So, something that was probably traditional. We had mariachi. We had cumbia. We had a little bit of everything there.
Yeah.
And then and we had entertainment for the kids. We had a booth where you get to play loteria. I know that was kind of set up by one of our board members.
Right.
And so those events, you're bringing culture, you're helping out those small business vendors, and everyone's having fun, right?
Yeah, and we're incorporating a family, atmosphere, which is very us, Yeah, it's bringing the whole family is what it's about, involving them.
Yeah, our community is all about family. It's one of our
Exactly.
core values, if you will, where We bring, multi-generational, my grandmother, my grandfather are coming with me.
Yes.
Sometimes let's go to the grocery store. Come on, vámonos bien. Vámonos, abuelo.
Yeah, and if I can say something about the area where we're holding our Cinco de Mayo, it's not a traditional, let's say, Hispanic neighborhood or, where most of Hispanics would have a traditional fiesta like this. It's smack in the middle of suburbia. It's just, but this is a wonderful opportunity to share and to just bring together the cultures, bring people in the neighborhood. Everybody loves our music. Everybody loves our food and that kind of thing. So, and it's a good opportunity for our vendors to come out and expose their products and their services to other markets that otherwise they wouldn't do. So, I mean, it's a good situation, I think.
So would you say that your chamber is inclusive to that point versus do I necessarily have to be Latino or Hispanic to join the chamber?
Yes, that needs to be very, very clear. No, you do not have to be Hispanic to be a member, or if you want to. We are all about collaboration. We're all about bringing people together. We want to, we want to be like, Hispanics are doing this with everyone. It's not like Hispanics are just doing it for Hispanics. We want to do this with everyone. We want to open the market, with everyone. So collaborations are a big part of what we do. So, yeah.
One of our core values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just to kind of add a little bit to that too, the vendors in the process, we're finding out, well, sometimes they don't know what kind of permits they need or, licenses, or how do I grow my business in the vendor space? So throughout that, we're also teaching them on the best ways to approach these vendor events.
I was going to say, so when I talk about joining a chamber, what are some of the benefits I can expect from this chamber, as an example? I may not have a good business plan, or I don't even know what a business plan is.
Right.
Do y'all provide those type of resources or education? And if so, how frequent do y'all do that, and where?
Well, basically online, because it seems like we are on Facebook all day long. We are on LinkedIn. We are on social media. So these things come up, these needs come up. And thanks to Gilberto and other people, we have the resources. We can always send them at least something to get them started. But we offer an opportunity for us to meet with other business owners that have more experience to kind of mentor them, kind of guide them along. So just recently, we just got an email from someone that wants to have a business, that doesn't even have an idea what kind of business, but she wants to know the basics. So, yeah, if we don't have the resources, then one of our members could. And that's how this network thing comes together.
That's perfect. Yeah. Is there a calendar that I can look at or find?
I think our best resource is probably our website, GNTHCC.org, and we'll be updating that with all of the events. But our social media is I think what brought a lot of this stuff together. So if you just hashtag GNTHCC on any platform, we'll probably pull up at the top.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like you're on point on social.
Yeah.
Which is good, but I always advocate that the Latinos were the original social media network. Our chisme, I mean.
Well, exactly.
Something happens and my cousin down the street
It
will
reminds
already know.
me of the women they have where they have the washboards and all the women are around washing, and, that's where you find out what's going on in the community.
And you've already answered this, but I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. So is there an advantage to joining a chamber from a startup versus a well-established business? So can you kind of walk me through both types of complexity? So we'll start with startup.
Yeah, I think with startup, you can get connected with somebody that's in the industry, so they will share a wealth of knowledge. If we have enough members in a specific industry that have a specific need, then we can set up a workshop for them. So we can have the workshops. Material we can get online through any one of our board members. We'll be happy to provide, or through any one of our committees. So as a new member and you're just starting up, you at least have where should I go first, right? And so we can kind of point you in the right direction. For somebody that's a lot more established, I think the opportunity for them is how do I reach in this market, and that's where we have the audience because we have these people that are starting up, and we can take them from A through Z, and then so I think that's where the opportunity lies for both.
Exactly. Yes.
I love the A through Z analogy. I mean, most folks want a simple game plan. Keep it simple. Where do I start? What do I do next? What's the game plan? And the fact that y'all are offering that type of service with via mentorship or via resources, I think is going to be invaluable to the community. Which brings me to, what do you see next? Where? That's assuming. Well, let me take a step back. How many members do y'all want to achieve by 2022, as an example? What's your growth trajectory look like, and how are y'all successful?
Go ahead.
Can I answer this one?
Yes.
Yeah. So I like this question, right? Because there's so the vision is that when we have enough members, I think naturally you just have a bigger voice, and that is when you start getting into any kind of policies, right? And in North Texas, and this is a personal thing, I felt like the Hispanic community needs a bigger voice.
Yes.
And that's another big gap. So when you have 200, 300 business owners together and saying, as business owners, we don't like X, Y, and Z, maybe as a group we can help with that in policy and influence certain things. So I think 3 years from now, 5 years from now, that's where we'll be. As far as membership growth on a month-to-month basis, I know it's going to vary depending on events, depending on what's going on. Hopefully Omicron doesn't,
Right.
come back with a vengeance or something. But if we're consistently getting 10 members a month, which is, something that we achieved last month, I think in the next couple of months, you're looking at still 50, 60, 70, 80 members. 80 members is still pretty strong if you think about how much money is moving between their businesses. So, but of course, I mean, we'd love to. I think the biggest, I don't want to misspeak, but one of the biggest chambers that I've noticed has maybe 1,000 members. 1,000 members in the United States, But at least if you look online on Google, and it'll be one of the things that comes up. But surely, I mean, our goal would be to get up there.
Yeah, I don't like to compare myself because I always come up short. But yeah, and the thing is, since we cover such a large area, we are all over North Texas. And there's so many areas that don't have any kind of organization, not even an actual just local chamber. We're going to be targeting specific counties, so that we can get a strong group in each and grow leadership there, so that it's impossible for one little group to manage, So hopefully the next group that we grow in Collin County, it'll take care of growing within that area. So, yeah, we have big plans, we have big ambitions, but I believe that through technology and all this enthusiasm, the younger generation is coming up, seeing that there is a place for an organization like this, especially for a minority community. I don't see any limits. I see the sky is the limit right now. Yeah,
I agree, and I love your enthusiasm. I couldn't agree with you more, Gilberto, especially when you talk about legislative influence, right?
Yes.
When there's strength in numbers, and conservatively at 10 members a month, that's 360 folks in just a matter of a short amount of years, and that's a large voice. But when you look at 30 counties, we're really. I love the fact that you're innovative, because through social media, through technology, you're able to really realistically reach all 30 counties at a single stroke or a single push of a button, which is pretty exciting. So what's your primary message? What's your pitch, if you will, when you go in and say, okay, 30 counties, You should pay attention to me, and here's why. What do you think that is?
The message is probably going to change a little bit depending on who we're speaking to. But I think inclusivity and just making sure that, hey, it's not just about joining the chamber, but it's being involved. And not being involved of just what's in it for me, but being involved in something greater. Something above, something that you can accomplish only with a group and not just by yourself.
Yeah, I think if we can infuse some hope to some people that may feel out there alone. I mean, there are many counties where they're very rural, but there is a good number of Hispanic businesses. I mean, lots of women that just sell from home, or they, whatever they do. But a little hope that they're not out there alone, that there are ways that we can connect. I mean, just about everyone has an iPhone or a smartphone nowadays. And one of the messages is that, if we don't have a seat at the table to make decisions for ourselves, somebody else is making them. Somebody else is actually, have an agenda that is beneficial to them. So we got to figure out how to let all these people know whatever you're suffering or you're going through. If you don't have a seat at the table, nobody's going to hear you. How are you going to be heard? You have to participate somehow. And I know within our community, we're kind of lax about that. And I think we have a little bit of I don't know what to call it, but that doesn't work. Voting is no good. And I mean, so we got to have a little more education on just some real facts on how things can actually change. I mean, just look at our leaders in the past, any of the activists, I mean, they fought, and because of them, we have some of the benefits and privileges. Now we have actual Hispanic business owners. We have more women in leadership. I mean, somebody had to pay the price, and somebody had to fight to be at the table to make their voices known. So it's our turn. We got to figure out, we need to, like I said, somebody else is making those decisions for us. Now, the United States Hispanic of Commerce, which is the largest chamber, and that's not just the Hispanic, it's the U.S., they advocate for immigration reform. And they have a strong voice because, why? Because that's good for business. It's good for all of us, whatever reasons they have. So we should have a voice in that. We should be able to put the pressure in and say that the kind of immigration that we want, reform. It shouldn't just be whatever they want or whoever wants. It should be, what do we want?
Yeah.
So anyway, advocacy, I think, is going to be the biggest push and the biggest thing that we're going to, but it takes the numbers. It takes people committed. It takes people involved. It takes people understanding what it's all about.
I once remember when I was a kid, and you talk about why should I change? It's working. Why do I need to be dynamic? Why do I need to rethink how I think? And when you talk about, let's just say, I grew up in a rural town, San Angelo, Texas, back in the day, and there was a old lady. She used to burn her garbage in the back, and that's how. There was no real garbage services. You just burned the garbage, and yes, okay, well. And so then the chamber, or not the chamber, but the city had passed the ordinance and said, okay, you're no longer allowed to burn garbage.
Right.
But for her, she didn't understand, and she got fined. I only bring that up to say that, there's strength in numbers, and there's absolutely, if you don't have a seat at the table, the ability to influence.
Right.
And have these constructive conversations. You may not necessarily always win, but having what's good for business, and more importantly, what's good for Hispanic business.
Yes.
I believe I could not be more excited for you and your purpose and your mission because of that pathway forward, that movement forward. So, but again, going back to now, I'm just starting out, or I'm just doing the same old. I think what's the message, and we've covered it a little bit already, is y'all have the right resources. Y'all have the right education tools. So do we see an enthusiasm? when you talk to your existing members, as you look inward and saying what is important to you, what's driving growth?
Yeah, and I'm always excited because I think every committee brings something different,
Yes.
and that's what keeps me going. Because a lot of times I'll talk to a certain group and they're like, and we should do this and we should do that. We should do.
Yes.
Yes, we should do all of this.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm always excited to talk to every single one. But yes, everybody that has joined has always decided to stay around for a second year, for a third year, and they want to get involved some way, somehow. So I think we're going in the right direction. We're plugging people in the right places, and it's just a matter of keeping it going.
I'm very excited, and I've kept the excitement, even though there were times, there were, little pitfalls. But I get so excited just seeing, and I'm a woman of a certain generation. I can't hide that, but it doesn't matter. I'm still excited, I know where things have been in the past, how things have been done. I know what kind of works and what kind of doesn't work. And I think what we have done is just created the space for these people to come and feel at home. They feel comfortable. They feel like their ideas and their voice is going to be heard. Because right now we're like, bring it, because we'll figure it out. If you need that, he'll get on there and he'll just put a paper together and, plan. And so far, so good. I mean, and I think if we can keep this momentum, and I think since we're going to be growing in different areas, we can replicate this in every area. It's just going to mushroom. It's going to get, I think it's going to stay fresh.
Now I'm gonna get a little personal.
Yeah.
And say, so what got y'all into the chamber life? I mean, that's not a career path that's typical.
Yeah.
It takes somebody really unique and really special to go down that path.
Yeah.
Alina.
Well, just somewhat by accident, but I had been involved in some chambers before. I just never really felt it's exactly the same thing. Why do I need a chamber for? And I was just part of a big company who was able to, because of procurement, and get a big contract through the county. So I learned a lot about doing business with the government, but not because of the chamber. I just had to figure it all out on my own, because the chamber was just not meeting my needs. Where I was. So there was always this thing in the back of my mind, and I have to give a lot of credit to a mentor of mine, who was very instrumental in guiding one of the oldest chambers in Texas, reviving it, bringing it back to life. So I learned a lot. I'm kind of a listener. I observe a lot, and when it was my time to put it to work, I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But, oh my gosh, I have a lot of, I just have so much faith in our younger generations. I just, I feel like if I had the tools, back then, how much more we could have done. So I'm just super excited, that they're taking up the baton and leading on and that kind of thing. So I came in just because, this little group of people, we wanted to do something different. And like any group, sometimes some people just leave because this or that, and the little core group stayed on, and we kept it going, and that's how we. And then he came in as just a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he caught on to it.
I caught her.
And you roped them.
Yeah, he's
No,
not leaving.
Yeah, it was the first event that I was like, you want to show up to an event and you want to feel welcomed and you want to feel like you're part of it. And the first event that I showed up, I met every board member. So it kind of made me feel good, I was just like, oh, nice. I met every board member there, and everybody was super nice. So I felt like, you know what? If there's a group that I'm going to help out, I want it to be this group. And I was, at the time before I joined this chamber, I was actually kind of going to different networking events and seeing, where I feel comfortable. This kind of goes back to when I first started. I always helped out my dad in his foundation repair business, And I realized that there's a lot of power in networking. And sometimes it's better to build business relationships with 10 people that'll refer you one customer a month than to be in front of 1,000 people that may not remember your name.
Right.
And I think I realize that if I go to these networking events and I build a business relationship with people that care, that want to give back, then I know it's going to come back to me, in my business. So I think that's what kind of brought me in and said, okay, this feels right.
Right.
Well, beautiful. With leaders like yourself, no doubt that the chamber is going to continue to see the success for years to come and finally get that seat at the table that you're talking about. So in parting, where can folks find more about you? Where can they go if they have questions or want to do their own investigation and say, I want to join and I want, si se puede, sign me up.
Yeah.
Where can they go?
Yeah, I like setting up a one-on-one session with a person before they can go to our website, GNTHCC.org, to look at any kind of information. But they can send me an email to membershipservices@GNTHCC.org, and we'll schedule a one-on-one Zoom meeting. That seems to be the most convenient, and we'll talk about what are your needs and where do we go from there.
That's right. Yep. And of course, just look us up on social media because you'll get our attention. If you're looking, if you've got a question, we're always just scouting through it and
Are you even on
responding.
TikTok?
We actually are on TikTok now. Yes, and that's something I really wanted to do about a year ago, and it was kind of catching on. And I thought, TikTok, but I think it's going to be a good one.
I think so, and I expect to see some funny dancing videos. Get a little crazy, get a little wacky. That's okay. That's the spirit of social.
Yes.
Well, it's been a great pleasure having this conversation with y'all. I've learned a lot about the history, and just all the great facts that y'all provided for this, no doubt, a sleeping giant of a community. And I'm excited for the future to come. So that concludes today's session. My name is Trinidad Aguirre, the host of Chamber Charla, and I look forward to the next upcoming sessions coming soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.